This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V. Rise up. The answer lies in the heart of battle. You're listening to A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. Hadouken!
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily, there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words when no faith is empty. I stayed the course, so my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's A.C.M.G. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Daxavier Josiah. Folks, if you realize this is on a Monday, or even on a Tuesday if you're listening to it, that's because things happen. And things happen for a reason. As you know, Skype is not the most dependable program in the world. And, you know, when I have guests on, anything can happen. But for the most part, to their credit, I usually have a good average, quality average with them. So, no power to it. But we're doing this over again so we can get it done, and we definitely don't want to miss out on talking about one of the most fun movies to see this summer, and that is Spider-Man Far From Home. And who better to talk about this than my friend, my good man of all of the Marvel movies, Mighty Joe Rinaldi is back on the show. What's going on, man?
I'm doing good. How you doing, Dax?
Not too bad, not too bad. Now, you recovered since yesterday.
Yes. Yeah.
And we got a chance to do this, but nonetheless, you were waiting to watch the game, which was the finals of the Cup.
Yeah.
You got to see it today. How was it? How was your was it with you and your family?
It was great. It's awesome to watch, something like that millions of people around the world are watching at the same time. And for me, it's nice to have, an occasion to feel very patriotic when I don't feel like I have, a ton of those opportunities lately. So
only that in the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly.
Which only went on for at least a week.
Yeah. Yep.
Before El Capitan actually started acting like a fool again.
Yeah.
So, no, that's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. And you know what? It's probably better because I actually got more information.
Cool.
In regards to Spider-Man Far From Home, some questions that we were wondering about, we got the answers for them. So we'll be talking about all that and more. But before I do that, I got some huge announcements to talk about. And if you're on Instagram right now, it's a sponsored post going on right now. And, that some of you may know, some listeners, some new people may know. The ACMG Facebook group knows. Shout out to them. And people on my page as well. The biggest honor that I could ever have since I was nominated for the 2016 Philly Geek Award. This is probably, I hate to say this might actually top it. But last year, as you know, we talked about this. Last year, I actually had a chance to work with ReedPop. And ReedPop, in fact, is it's one of the largest comic book convention companies out there. They not only do New York Comic-Con, which is one of the biggest cons out there, they also work on around the world and different cons and PAX and all this stuff. I mean, they are a force. I would love to see their portfolio.
Yeah.
Honestly, they are running a engine right now. And there's no signs of stopping anytime soon, especially with New York Comic-Con. It's like a dead second to San Diego Comic-Con right now. And it seems like every year it grows even more and more. And last year, they started a new con in Philadelphia called Keystone Comic-Con. It was their freshman year, and they had a great time. I actually had a chance to work with them because of my alliances with certain guests that's been on the show and friends that's been on the show. Mega Ran and Molly Flanagan, who is the voice of Naruto, and I believe a few others too that I might have actually put an ear into them coming in. And lo and behold, we had a great time. It worked out great. I actually got a chance to I think this is a great bonus for me. I actually got a chance to interview my bucket list actor. And that is Kevin Conroy. You know, the voice of Batman animated series. Have you ever watched the show?
Oh yeah.
Like that dude's voice is iconic.
Yeah, iconic.
I don't think he's ever done any other voice other than Batman.
Oh really?
Yeah, like I know when he does appearances on TV or movies, it's as himself because people know who he is.
Yep.
Like I really seriously don't think he's ever done anything. I'd be surprised if I've seen him in another project or whatever. But yeah, it was Batman Day, in fact, and I got a chance to be a part of a press interview with him, and it was an awesome experience. And they did a great job, because Wizard World is down here too, and a lot of fans in Philly aren't feeling Wizard World lately because of the lack of quality there is that they were having. And I think this was Reed Pop's way of going into City Hall saying like, look, this is what we've done for other cities, this is what we've done for countries like India or whatever, because they go around the world, and like, we could do something here for Philly, we could bring more money in or something like that. And they got a 5-year contract, I believe, if I remember correctly, from what Brian Stephenson said, who was on the show last year. Okay. Brian Stephenson's he's the brand marketing, executive director of last year. And now somebody else is taking over the helm, which I believe I should be having her pretty soon on this show. But they're coming back this year. And lo and behold, I was given the honor and asked to host a panel this year. And not only just any panel, like for gamers, this is awesome because this is based on Overwatch. And wow. Yeah. And you got kids. Yeah. Do I need to say any more? I'm pretty sure if you got kids, you got an Xbox or a PlayStation, 9 chances out of 10, Overwatch is in here.
Yeah, totally.
And the crazy part about it, you want to hear an actual crazy story about this? Because this is actually still parallel to how I met Molly Flanagan. I went to Disney World and Epcot Center one year, and me and S, my wife Esther, who actually she was running on the Disney run, marathon over there. Which for any runner, I highly recommend. It's awesome. Even if you're a spectator who gets dragged into it, it's an awesome experience for everybody. But I went into Epcot's Japan store, and they have a lot of different anime, fanfare, otaku items. I got a mystery box that just happened to have Naruto figures in there, and you don't know what you're getting out of it. So when I picked it up, opened it, I got Naruto. Not knowing years later that I would be good friends with this woman. Who ends up doing the voice of the iconic character, and and a client of mine as well. Yep. Last year, our first year of San Diego, of Keystone Comic-Con, I got you get a lot of swag, whatever. Like, I needed a new book bag. Yeah. Decided to get this particular book bag. I just wanted to get one that just looked good. I didn't think anything of it. Not realizing that this was a Overwatch book bag. And lo and behold, I get this opportunity to be the host of the panel for this now.
Very cool.
That's very weird, to be honest. It's like some type of a omen or something. Not only that, but not only will I be a host of this panel, but I will also have some great guests with me. 3 of the voices of Overwatch, that would be like Fred Tatasciore. If you don't recognize that name, you recognize the characters that he played, and in particular one. He's the voice of the Incredible Hulk. He's on the game. He's the voice of Soldier 76. So when I went to San Diego, I had a chance to check out the Marvel panel for the animated panel. He's been on there twice. He's awesome. The fact that I'm even getting a chance to be a part of that involving him is absolutely fantastic. Jennifer Hale, who also plays Ash in the game, but also plays in one of my best games of the year this year, and that's Mortal Kombat. She's Chronica, which is like the main character in that game. So I get that tie-in. And then it's like everybody's favorite actress who plays one of the like most fanfare and beloved characters, Diva, and that is Charlotte Chung on here. So I got 3 guests this time. I gotta juggle 3 different guests, and this is like 1 guest more than I ever had to juggle when it comes to interviewing guests. But it's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. I actually, upon yesterday, when we did this before yesterday, I actually got all my questions done, so I'm ready for. I'm the type that gets my homework done. I really hate waiting till the last minute to get stuff done. I've done that in high school. It doesn't work. I'm telling every kid now, if you're listening, that never works. So I got all my questions done for that panel down the line, so I have nothing to worry about. I just got to show up, do my thing, and just have a great time for there. Also, that's not all. I also been granted a second panel. So Talk Time Live will be hosting 2 different panels at this event. The second one will be based on my all-time favorite fighting game, and that is Street Fighter. And not just the game, but the art of Street Fighter. And, again, a game that I'm sure you're familiar of.
Yeah.
I got a lot of connections to that game because, one, I know the 2 main voices of that game, Kyle Haber and Ruben Langdon, who I had on the show, like, I think between the 2, both 3 times each. And they're awesome. And then, to have ties with this game, it's near and dear to me for a lot of reasons. I grew up with this game. I grew up with the series, with the franchise. And now I get to host a panel about that with one of the best udon artists available right now, and that is Long Vo, who I actually got a chance to meet at San Diego Comic-Con like a couple years ago, and he actually did a commission for me on this really 30-pound book that shows the art of Capcom on there. So his stuff is in there and everything, and I got a chance to meet with him as well. And then a artist named Jeffrey Cruz, who many people know him as Chamba. These guys are extraordinary. Like, when it comes to Capcom, art and illustration, I feel like they go through the code of Disney, because Disney has their set requirements of how they want their characters to look and such. Yeah, I feel like that Udon Entertainment and Capcom works together to make sure that traditional system stays there, and these guys do a phenomenal job. I mean, absolutely eye-catching as all hell. So I will be there in August, which is August 23rd, 24th, 25th. The Overwatch panel will be August 25th at 1 to 2 p.m. So if you guys are Overwatch fans, absolutely come by, check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hell, there may be some giveaways and stuff, as I'm going through the con too. So I got a lot planned for that as well. Awesome. So not only that, for those who are listening now, and especially for those in the A.C.M.G Facebook group, stay tuned, because there will be a way. This is not the only announcement I have. There will be a way that you can get a chance to come to Keystone Comic-Con. So that's being in the works as well. So stay tuned for that. That news is going to be coming soon with further details. So now that I got that great news out of the way, we got some other great matters to talk about. This episode will not include any other segment, but this is a talk topic only segment. We're only going to be covering Spider-Man Far From Home and our review of it, only because this, due to the holiday last week, there's really nothing else to talk about. Really, nothing worth talking about, really. So I mean, we might as well just get down to it. I think we could fill up enough time to talk about that. So yeah, absolutely. Let's get to it, man. This is the final Marvel movie of the year, especially as far as we know, until 2020 or 2021. And after Endgame, how do you think they were still going to be able to entertain us after all that? Hell yeah. Dare I say hell yeah. Yeah. So with that said, I'll let you start off. What did you think overall of Spider-Man Far From Home?
I mean, I really loved it. I thought that, going into it, I was a little apprehensive about what to expect. It's the first, release after Endgame, and Endgame is so heavy and yeah, exactly. Profound in all those ways. So I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I went with the family and everybody, from my 8-year-old all the way up to me and my wife, who's not quite as diehard as the rest of us. We all loved it. I mean, It really paid off as a summer, blockbuster in every kind of category. So I was super pleased. I thought they did a great job, and it's definitely one of my favorites in terms of Marvel movies in general.
Yeah, I can tell you this. I will tell you this before I even say what I thought about this. Can Marvel, and again, I said this last time, I'm say it again. If anybody here is listening or know anybody in Marvel Studios, Disney, whatever, can y'all not ever put out a movie on a 4th of July weekend, or let alone if it falls on a weekday, because that is damaging. Maybe not for box office, but from like people who work in the movie theaters who got to do that day, and then you got people who call out. We end up going to Movie Tavern, which we want that whole entire experience, the restaurant experience and the chill and the recliner seats and everything. We got 2 out of 3 of that. We got the movie.
Yeah.
We got the recliner chairs. They were so backed up, we couldn't get our food.
Oh, that sucks.
It really did. And I don't blame the staff, because I know from my experience of working, at a movie theater before, like during this time of the year, people are they're not expecting to have blockbuster movies on the 4th of July. Last time that happened was Independence Day.
Yeah.
And there was no such thing as a movie tavern there.
Yeah.
So I know people probably called on vacation for the holiday and all the stuff, and that left a lot of people hanging. I feel bad for a lot of the staff there because they didn't get tipped because of everything. So, I mean, it was really a bad situation. But had it been on the weekend, I think it would have been much, much better in that case. But with that said, I absolutely enjoyed the film. I thought the film was a lot of fun. And, once again, gave me that aura and feel of the Ultimate Spider-Man series, the comic book series by Mark Bagley and Brian Michael Bendis. And, God, if you have not read that book, it is a awesome, awesome book from the Ultimate comic book series. And I know they merged and everything, but I still wish that they would have, kept that on the side and kept developing. But they got a lot of issues out of that series before they end up merging universes together and bringing Miles and everything to it. But for what it was worth, I love that they took the nature of that comic book and brought it to life. Obviously, brought it to life on a lot of purposes here. But again, it was from start to finish, I loved it. And to quote somebody that I talked to when talking about Marvel movies, or just any movies in general, like when you go into a Marvel movie, you come in like you're going into a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
You feel all sorts of emotions going up that hill and getting ready to go down that hill for something really climatic and epic and impactful. And then when it's all done, you come out full of energy, happiness, or whatever, but you're coming out satisfied. That was a hell of a ride that you went through. And that's how Marvel movies always are. This was no different.
Yeah.
Absolutely love this. So, let's talk about standout performances here. I mean, in my mind, honestly, truthfully, the entire cast of this movie did outstanding. I mean, they were like, whether they had a small part or an even bigger role, they all did fantastic. But if I had to choose, I got like 5 of them. But I want to hear from you first, and as to which you thought was one of the best performances out there, or one that stood out to you.
Sure. I thought that, the first one that comes to mind is Jake Gyllenhaal. I think that, the way that he kind of approached the character of Mysterio was really incredible. And a lot of the movie's success kind of hinged on that. The fact that he was able to kind of embody this, heroic persona in the beginning of the movie, and really kind of like play on Peter's, heartstrings when it comes to like Tony Stark, and kind of prey on that a little bit. And then in the second half of the movie, once the big reveal happens, he's very clearly, a very different guy than he was presenting in the beginning of the movie. He's very kind of, there's a paranoia and an opportunism that is kind of manifest there. So I thought like he wound up playing, kind of 2 parts in this, and the movie's better for it. Like it really, the antagonist in this is one of the stronger in all the Marvel movies, I think. So I think Jake Gyllenhaal to me was easily the first one that really pops for me for the standout performance.
Which is a great thing, like you said, because I mean, in order for the old saying, in order for a protagonist to be really as great as what they are, you have to be countered or opposite an even better antagonist.
Yeah.
if you will. Like if your antagonist, if your villain isn't even overcoming the odds badass, then it's not even like fulfilling, because you want to see if this person can climb up that mountain, can break that glass ceiling, if you will.
Yeah.
And I thought that they did very well making him not overly powered, but just enough to, enough to have Peter figure out how to really get at him.
Yeah.
And this was, I can't agree with you more. Who else do you got?
The other thing I was thinking was just generally the ensemble of the high school class and the two chaperones. Just the whole narrative of their school trip and the backdrop of all of that. I think that there's a lot of chemistry among those actors that makes their relationships really believable and really fun. It's fun
Smooth was excellent.
Yeah, he was hilarious. I mean, just like him, always freaking out about witches at every moment. Like, I don't know what made him decide to go in that direction with his part, but like, just it was hilarious. He kept coming back to that and beating that drum. But yeah, I think like, and it's interesting. Like, I hadn't thought of it until you just said that about the villains being an important part or important, element in the recipe.
Yeah.
I think that one of the things that I've always appreciated about Spider-Man comics is how strong the villains are. How
his
cool
rogue gallery is the best out there.
Gallery, right?
Yeah.
And it's like Batman. Like, those are the two, heroes that have the coolest villains, and I think they're certainly better off for it. I think the other thing that makes a Spider-Man story is that the personal stakes are as high as the superheroic stakes.
Yeah.
Like Peter Parker grappling with, teenage problems is as important as Spider-Man, defeating the villain. So I think the role that all those other characters play as his, classmates and friends and teachers and all that, it made sure that the focus of the movie was balanced between the fight against Mysterio and then also, the stakes were just as high, that Peter wanted to tell MJ how he felt, and you felt a real tension that he wasn't going to be able to follow through on that. So I think they've consistently done a great job in both of the last two movies in this series with that really strong supporting cast in the high school crew, and I think this was another great example.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention, let's real quick to focus on that class.
Yep.
The demographics of that class, the generational demographics of that class is the millennials.
Yeah.
So you have, this movie is clearly catered very well and designed very well for this generation, because the MJ that we know, the Flash Thompson that we know, would not be that Flash Thompson. Like, I don't think they would be able to get away with those particular characters. Even Aunt May, you wouldn't be able to get away with those characters in 63 or 1980 or even 90 or 2000, because, especially in 2000 when we had Raimi for the first time do it, because it needed, I think what Raimi did back then, it was needed. We needed to see a direct to source or close to source version of Spider-Man before we could branch out into these other ones. Yeah. So, that version matched the Earth 616 version, while this one is more closer to the Ultimate, and which the Ultimate was geared for a new age of, fans.
Yes.
And they did the same format here, and I love that. I don't know if Kevin Feige did that by design or whatever, but they did an absolutely awesome job with it. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. So, with me, I gotta say definitely Tom Holland. I can't go through. It's like it's a given. But you can't take away or even not acknowledge how important it is for him to stick out of all of this great talent in this movie and still be center of attention. And it was hard because he had a lot of great cast members in this movie. Yeah. In their own respective right. And for him, once again, Tom Holland dominated as the Ultimate Spider-Man and Peter Parker to me. Yep. Out of all the Peters that we had, and I love Tobey. I just, it's funny. I just saw The Amazing Spider-Man 2 yesterday. Or a clip of it, because after watching Homecoming and Far From Home and then the original Spider-Mans, I couldn't deal with Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker. He's way too damn cool to be an emo to be Peter Parker. It bothered the hell out of me with that. And I had tolerated that movie before until Tom Holland came out. I'm like, no. Yeah. But I love the fact that no matter who he is on camera with, whether it's Robert Downey Jr., Chris Hemsworth, or Cumberbatch, it doesn't matter. He seems to captivate you with every form of fashion, every fiber of his being, and the most genuine and welcoming personality that everybody can relate to. That is That is Peter Parker in a nutshell right there.
Yep.
I mean, a lot of credit to Tom. He really embedded. He assimilated into that role so well.
Yep.
I think even outside, because we talked about this yesterday too, with him doing, visits to the children's hospital and like Make-A-Wish and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As the character, as him, he really understands his responsibility. I need more young kids like him.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think he understands the importance of this like idea of Spider-Man and has really like embraced all of it. Yeah, he's certainly my favorite of the three kind of cinematic Peter Parker Spider-Mans as well, for sure.
Absolutely. So I got to give credit and shout out to Zendaya as well. Like I told you before, like I have not really been a fan of her prior to this movie. I know well enough about her because of her being with Beyonce or her being on her own Disney show. And I caught that show like once or twice, most likely because Kadeem Hardison was in there from a different world.
Yep.
in there. So I was like, all right, I love that character. So let me see what's going on. Realized that she has some depth in her acting ability.
Yeah.
And this one, she did it again. I mean, her playing as MJ, despite the fact that like the very nature of her is far contrast from many Spider-Man readers know about her, especially from the 90s. During the Todd McFarlane, Eric Larson era of comic books, she played totally different version of Mary Jane. Although, she manages to be very likable, with her introvert, personality, and both casual and hardcore fans that seem to enjoy her.
Yeah, I agree. I think she's like, she delivers in this movie. I think it would be pretty unsuccessful if you couldn't understand just how much Peter prioritizes her, and I think she does a great job. She's really like takes an interesting angle with the character that still makes her a very logical priority for Peter throughout the whole movie. I thought she was great.
Absolutely. By the way, I don't know if you saw it, but she actually paid homage to the original comic book MJ. She turned her hair red and straightened her hair to look like MJ.
You mean after the movie?
No, after the movie, of course, but in a promotion of the movie.
Gotcha. Yes, I think I saw like an Instagram of her on the red carpet with like red hair.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, she kind of does. Now she fits really the MJ prowess right there.
Yeah.
All right, Pete. Then you have Jacob Batalon, who, by the way, plays Ned, a.k.a. very similar to the version of Miles Morales' best friend, Genki Lee, in this. And I know Kevin Feige said it wasn't, and John Watts said that he wasn't. I'm sorry. He looks, I don't want to say sound because I never heard the actual voice, but he looks and acts just like Genki.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I just discovered some interesting news that I didn't put two and two together. I'm afraid for him now. Do you know what his last name is?
Whose last name?
On Ned's last name.
Oh no.
On IDMB, they have him credited as Ned Leeds. Do you know who Ned Leeds is?
No.
The Hobgoblin.
Oh, get out.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, that seems unlikely. Wow.
That's gonna piss me off if they go that direction.
Huh.
I don't know. Look, this could be their universe, and it just so happens. But even funnier, because we'll talk about this too. But with the Betty and Ned situation, there is a wink Easter egg to that now. So we'll talk about that later. But with that said, he manages to make himself more of a standout comic relief character in this. It helps balance out the character development in this thing. He was phenomenal. He's not overbearing of a character. He's not he's just right. He's very subtle. And when he speaks, it means something, and his jokes mean something.
Yeah.
I just absolutely love it. It's, I've seen some, side characters in a lot of these teen movies and stuff like that, but he's very cool. He's very cool in the sense that, he's kind of a sophisticated, kid.
Yeah.
for his age. And as you saw, he was wanted to shack up in Paris and all that out there. You know, it made for some great moments in there. Like you said, Jake Gyllenhaal was a big fan of that. But he played as great as a Quentin Beck as you could possibly have gotten. Like, I don't know, like even before that, I can't picture who would be a good Mysterio, because in some cases anybody can be Mysterio.
Yeah.
But to his credit, he nailed it. Of all the comics that I've ever read with Mysterio in there, whether it's like the Revenge of the Sinister Six or any of his like single rivalries with Spider-Man, or even from the comic or the animated series or cartoons or whatever, there's a certain formula to Quentin Beck out there, and Jake Gyllenhaal, I believe, matched it up quite fine in this movie. You know, his
great.
Yeah, his swag, charisma, and that great voice. He has a comic book voice.
Yeah.
I mean, just some people, like, when you have that type of voice. Him, Michael Keaton, there's somebody else too, whose voice just really speakers out. It's almost like you have a sound bar without having a sound bar. Yeah. And it's very manly and very masculine. And it's like, you know, the type of heroic or villain-like, I would say, that you're accustomed to if you're a comic book fan.
Yep.
But it wasn't as campy either. He manages to do all that and not be campy at the same time. So I thought he did a great job, and probably one. And like you said, he's up there with me. He's in my top 5 because I haven't loved a character like this for Spider-Man since Alfred Molina played Doc Ock in Raimi's Spider-Man 2.
Yep.
Who really matched up to the character of the comics. Yeah,
I agree. I think he's another, like, you know, benchmark great Spider-Man villain and a really great performance. But I would say that, you know, Gyllenhaal is right up there.
Yeah, he's right. I mean, that's like Thanos is at the top, like Kingpin from Daredevil and all those other and the Daredevil series and Netflix was awesome. He's up there. He's in that level with me, you know? So you got that. And then finally, like Samuel L. Jackson, for God's sake.
Yeah.
It's just Sam L.
Yeah.
It's Sam L. Like, his presence is always known. You know, thanks to the great writing and character development, Nick Fury gelled really well with Spider-Man in it. With, you know, especially with Tony being no longer around to be, you know, Peter's side.
Yeah.
You know, it was a wonder who was going to be the one to carry the weight in this. You know, nobody, and even Cap is gone too. So, you know, it was really awesome to see him there. The man is not Sam Jackson for nothing, you know?
Yeah.
Not only that, but if you listeners out there have ever read the Ultimate Spider-Man comics or even saw the Ultimate Spider-Man animated series that came out, you guys know that eventually the Ultimate Spider-Man version of Peter Parker ends up teaming up with S.H.I.E.L.D. or being like a S.H.I.E.L.D. reserve member and ends up doing things and working with S.H.I.E.L.D. and Nick Fury. So this was really, again, another homage to the Ultimate series as well.
Yep.
So it worked really great, and I got to give honorable mention, of course, Marissa Tomei and Jon Favreau with their little situation.
Yeah.
Going on in the movie.
Yeah,
I love the fact that Jon actually happy. You know, Tony dies. What does he do? He tries to shack up on a girl that he wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
In some cases, Tony would have probably done the same.
But I love the whole, like, you know, Peter kind of becoming aware of the relationship and them kind of hiding it. And, like, it was really well handled the whole time. I thought that was hilarious.
Oh, the writing
the Peter-Happy relationship has been a really interesting one to watch kind of evolve from the Homecoming to Far From Home. Yeah, it's been really cool to watch.
Absolutely. He's earned his webs.
Yeah.
Tony Revolori, who played Flash Thompson, a different version of a millennial version of Flash Thompson, if you will, and Remy Hee, who kind of was more Earth 616 Flash Thompson than Tony's Flash Thompson, to be honest. He played Brad Davis, who was the kid who was blipped and brought back 5 years later. Oh no, was it that he was already grown 5? No, was he? Remember, refresh me. Did he get blipped?
No. So what happened was the characters that got blipped were all the main characters
who
from
stayed
Spider-Man,
the same age
because they haven't aged. Yeah. So he remained behind, and when they came back, he was 5 years older.
Yeah, and like taller and puberty.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had that situation going on.
Yeah.
I thought he did really well. I thought I never expected to have a side character. I got to look at the comic books to see if there's such thing as a Brad Davis.
Yeah, I don't know.
I got to look at the internet. I never dawned on me to look at the internet to see if there's a Brad Davis and whether he's in the comic books in some form or fashion. So that'd be interesting as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of them are great characters. Talk about your favorite moments. What stood out for you?
So I think the first one that came to mind is, again, kind of focusing on the teenage ensemble cast and all those interesting relationships. The whole like sequence where they're flying over to Europe and Peter's trying to change seats to sit next to MJ and then winds up sitting next to the teacher instead, and then Ned and Betty starting their relationship under weird circumstances. Like just all of that I thought was like really, really well done.
That's not an easy sequence to write, by the way.
No, they accomplished a ton without a lot of time.
Right.
That. I think that sequence probably only lasts a few minutes, but I think it did a lot to like set up all the important relationships, really add a lot of context to things. And again, like I think once they did that, I think it was reassuring that it was going to be kind of a fun, Marvel movie, and it was going to have this kind of sense of humor and sensibility. So, for me, that was definitely, one of the real standout scenes. How about you?
The comedy to me reminded me a lot like an updated this generation version of the Donner Superman films.
I can see that. Yeah. Like
the Clark Kent scenes.
Yeah.
When he's like a bumbling idiot the whole entire time, and there's a lot of comedy going to that. It did kind of remind me of that case, but in their own flair of that. Me personally, like you said, let's go to the beginning. The high school memoriam of Tony, Steve, and Natasha. That we sung using the of all songs, Whitney Houston's version of "I Will Always Love You."
Yeah.
And I told you yesterday, I was like, man, I swear to goodness, when I was in the theater, I swore if they would have shown Stan Lee and playing some damn Whitney Houston, of all songs, that song, with her voice, the Man Up meter would have been blown up. Because I'm sorry, man. It was hard enough that in some of those scenes, like we talked about last time in our last review of Endgame, the battle scene when, on your left.
Yeah.
How many men balled up on that one? I'm like, now y'all giving us, Whitney Houston, and you're going to show Stan Lee, and none of them are here?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
But thank goodness they didn't do it. It was on those three, and it was like a amateuristic version, a high school, editing version of it, which started out with Betty and the kid both of them from the last movie.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know or may have not realized, the guy that's in that video with Betty, he played on Ready Player One, and he was on Bumblebee, the Bumblebee only movie, which was said to be the best Transformers movie of all time.
Yeah.
I agree. And he played on both of those. He was awesome in there, and he played on Battle Angel Alita as well. So he's been around. He's getting around. I think he's going to be Don Cheadle his way into Hollywood in the next few years, because I'm seeing him a lot lately. But we got to see that footage, and followed by the explanation of how the school was affected by Thanos' snapped habit in the Endgame, and you saw everybody wither away and disintegrate away, and now what they call the blip.
Yeah.
Wasn't it with like two P's, by the way? It was very like
I don't know.
I know
it was really like they managed to like sum all that up super quickly and just kind of like address it and then put it away.
It was really like a previously on. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did like that. Again, like happy rolling up on May throughout the whole entire movie. I love that. The introduction of Mysterio and him telling everybody that he was from Earth 616 was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Big, for those who aren't comic book fans, like Earth 616 is known as the Prime universe, the original universe that from the 1963 X-Men, Spider-Man, Captain America, all that stuff, before they changed everything up. So they just labeled it Earth 616, and there's like another one, Earth 833, which is the UK region area universe and everything. It's really cool. The scene also where we have Mysterio or Quentin Beck get a hold of Edith, which stands for Even in Death, I Am the Hero, the glasses that Tony gave Peter. Which, honestly, I know I probably won't look right in there. And I just saw those today on the internet. I'm really eager to want to. If they're at Keystone Comic-Con, I hope they are, because I will try them out. But no, watch them try to charge me like an arm and a leg for it, too. I'm like, no, there's no real operating system in this thing. You can't be charging me like $200 for this damn glasses when I see them for $30 online. Don't even try it.
Yep.
But, I love the fact that he managed to sucker his way into those glasses.
Yeah.
And then the big monologue moment was awesome because they revealed this entire cast of people that helped him achieve this goal of getting these glasses and getting back at Tony for all that he's done to them, and which resulted in, Quentin telling the story of him being at MIT during the Civil War movie when Tony was going through all types of mess with him and Pepper going through it. And he said that he called the holographic program that apparently Quentin Beck created, and he called it BARF.
Yeah, I love the idea that like all of these people in his crew were like extras or like small characters from the previous movies that had been bullied by the villains or by Tony. I thought that was like
including the original scientist from the original Iron Man that was with Obadiah Stane.
Yep.
I thought that was absolutely freaking awesome. And you did reveal who that guy was, by the way.
Yeah, if you're watching closely, I quizzed my kids afterwards to see if they had spotted him. But yeah, if you watch closely, that character, he's played by Peter Billingsley, who was Ralphie in A Christmas Story.
That is so awesome.
Yeah, he's definitely like in like the Jon Favreau Rolodex. He was in Elf as well, so he's like he must just be like friends with Favreau going back, and just finds his way into these parts.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised because when every director does a movie, they have their normal crew. I realized that years ago, like when you start to see a particular director there, they have their set people that they always depend on to be a part of a movie. Depending on like they make sure I got one of these days, if I can ever get a director on the show, or if I can ever interview a director, I got to ask that question because I noticed that anything with like Emma Stone or what's the other guy from La La Land? Help me out.
I'm blank on his name. I know exactly who you mean.
Men always blank on his name.
Yeah. From Ride, right? Yeah. I can't think of it.
You know what I'm talking about. You guys know what I'm
Ryan
talking about.
Gosling.
Yeah, Ryan Gosling. If you look at all the movies that Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone have ever been in, 9 chances out of 10, it's been the same director.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, it's kind of on that deal. Same with the Matrix crew, the Wachowskis and all that stuff. They tend to utilize a lot of people that they worked on there because they form a guild with these guys.
Yeah,
apparently. So I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Favreau does that either.
Yep.
But I also want to talk about like how Peter was going to design his new suit that we now see, the black and red suit. Which, by the way, if you guys own the Spider-Man video game, there's a new update. If you haven't played it in a while, go back on it and get the free update that the DLC update did, because now you'll have possession of the new suit from the movie along with the noir tribute suit that he played, that black suit.
Oh, very cool.
Which is like a homage to the noir Spider-Man. Do you know about that one?
Oh yeah, that's I know from the series and from across
Into the Spider, right?
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a homage to there, but both of those suits are now available for free on in the Spider-Man PS4 game, which you need to. If you ever needed a reason to get a PlayStation in your house, that game is the reason.
I've only heard good things.
I've only played. There's a rare times I play a game multiple action game like that multiple times. I've played that. This is my fourth or fifth time going in.
That's awesome.
It is. Yeah. I mean, it's just the voice acting, the gameplay, everything. It's like one of the best video game adaptions since Batman Arkham series. Just phenomenal.
Yeah.
But if you noticed in there when he was designing the new suits, his new suit, he prompted up a lot of the other prototypes that was there. One of which I didn't see all of them, but the one that really caught my eye immediately was the original Iron Spider prototype suit, or the original Iron Spider suit from the comic book Civil War.
Yeah, I didn't see that like that clearly, but definitely thought like at some point I want to go back and look at that scene again to see there's got to be a lot of interesting stuff kind of buried in there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I actually was pondering on actually going back to see it again in my neighborhood theater this week to check it out, so I could really know what all the other, well, not just for that reason alone, but just so I could see exactly what other suits there was, because I saw that was like wow, and I thought about like I do like the new the movie version a little better, in the original, but I would love to see how they would have made that version of it come to life.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was just a really great homage to that. And then, of course, the fight scene. The fight scene, to me, between Mysterio and Spider-Man, to me, is, as far as Spider-Man movies, is the best fight scene since Spider-Man 2 with Doc Ock. I mean, once again, they managed to capture all of the elements of what you read in the panels or the splash pages, and it just, from a Spider-Man, action scene, and it just came to life in such a great way. And I haven't seen anything that matched up to the comic book feel since that fight with Doc Ock and Spider-Man and 2. Mm-hmm. And that's not taking anything away from other fight scenes, but I thought this was just very well done. It had a little Doctor Strange, like, psychedelic type of feel to it. Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought that, the thing that you're looking for, or I'm looking for, with like a big kind of epic battle with Spider-Man is you want it to be kind of an aerial battle. You want him to swing around and, kind of use his powers. And I think sometimes it's hard to figure out how to, design a situation that calls for that. Yeah. And I thought they did a great job of, like, really, especially when, he's battling all the drones and everything. Yeah. Like, I thought they did a great job of creating an interesting context for him to use his powers. That was really cool.
I think, you just made a great point, too. That's another thing. It was different from all the other Spider-Man fight scenes that you've ever seen in other movies.
Yeah.
I mean, you still got a mix of Spider-Man swinging around, jumping around, reflexes, everything, using the spider tingle, if you will.
Yeah.
But the bigger scene was, the more epic scene was him actually having to try to figure out how to get through these illusions.
Yeah.
That Beck was, projecting to him. Yep. And it was just amazingly done. And the fact that they focused more on his spider sense this time around, because they hinted on it. I remember having this conversation with people at, what was that, Civil War? Whether he was actually using spider sense or not. And he damn sure was, but it wasn't really shown out. And then somewhat in Homecoming too, but in this version, it was part of the story. It was one of the main stories of this, of this movie right here. So,
Yep.
I can't see any. Luckily, talking to our A.C.M.G. Facebook group, I haven't heard one person say anything bad about this movie, especially Spider-Man fans. Not one thing. Not one darn thing. So that was awesome. So let's talk about the end credits, if you will.
Oh, yeah.
Because there was some things that happened on there that was just outrageous, and some epic things that happened. Thank you, John Watts, the director, for doing what he did bravely, and it was awesome. Yeah. Let's talk about this briefly. Peter swings with Mary Jane in New York and which is interrupted by, breaking news. Before I even talk about the breaking news, Mary Jane, you could tell she's not our old school Mary Jane from the 90s and 80s. Old school Mary Jane would have loved to ride and fly away and all that stuff. This one?
Yeah.
And I love her for it. This one was like, she was scared out of her ass swinging across New York.
Yeah.
And then I love the way that they showed the velocity and speed of how fast Spider was, Peter was going. To the point you can understand, you can empathize as to why she would never want to do that again.
Yeah. Yep.
So you got that. And then all of a sudden it ends off with them about to part ways. And then there's some breaking news come with none other than the return of J. Jonah Jameson, and not just anybody playing that role.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is reprised by none other than J.K. Simmons himself. I was one of the first people to start clapping hugely for this.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, this absolutely was awesome, because not only was this a homage to him, this was a homage to the old Raimi movies themselves. Just to say how well that movie did and how well he did in that movie. That spoke volumes. And I just read an interview with John Watts talking about how that occurred and how, when contacting him saying that, we want you back for the role. He's like, how the hell are you going to do this? It's two different movies. And he explained how he was going to do it. And apparently JK was more than ready for it. He was more than happy for it. I love this MCU version of him. It looks the same. He has a balder head now, but he's still the same J. Jonah. So it's like, it's like one of those things, like in one of those deals where, like, in every universe, there's always a different JJ.
Yeah,
but I think it's the same type of JJ, regardless of how he looks.
Yeah, he's easily one of the, like, most perfect castings of all the supporting characters they've had over the years.
Absolutely.
And, I struggled to think who would play that part better or who would be a better choice.
I don't think there is.
And then they just kind of like slayed that dragon by just making it the same, use the same actor, play the same part. I thought I was genuinely surprised in a really, really like positive way. I thought it was awesome.
Absolutely. And not only that, apparently Watts said like there was nobody else that he was thinking about doing this, but
That's awesome.
He wanted him back. There was no discussion. There was no debate. It's going to be JK because JK is J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Right there. So that just led to a fact that JJJ actually reported that Spider-Man was the cause of all of the terroristic acts in Paris, which then show video footage of him of a full 360 or 180, if you will, of him saying that he executed all, as if he was the one that was controlling the drones.
Yeah.
And it made it seem like he killed Mysterio. So Mysterio left this nice little goodbye gift.
Yeah.
To him out here.
Yeah.
Which begs the question: is he still alive?
I think that the it's interesting though that they created this kind of cliffhanger at the end and kind of gave you that to kind of react to. I thought that was awesome.
Now, granted, Edith did say that there was no vital signs in him.
Right.
So who's to say like he didn't set it up to he still manipulated that system because he had it in it. I mean, they can really write at anything at this point with that. But it was awesome to see, and now it just left this big, huge cliffhanger to which we were asking the following question: is there going to be another movie?
Yeah.
I got the answer.
Oh, what do you got?
Damn right.
Oh, great. So what's the situation?
According to that interview that I was just talking about on IGN.com, they had the discussion talking about, it wasn't a question, they were just talking about what Peter is going to have to go through in the next movie. And I'm like, oh, so this is absolutely definite. This is definitely going to happen. So, John basically said that, he's going to have some ways with him because of the fact that in Iron Man, in the original Iron Man, Tony chose to tell his secret, whereas Spider-Man actually didn't get that opportunity. He had the worst luck. So now he's going to have to figure out how to get through that mess during the third run, which is going to be interesting. And again, this is going to lead to like who the missing link of between this, the Far From Home and Homecoming, is who's going to be the next, villain. Have you forgotten that Mac Gargan was in the movie, aka the Scorpion?
Yeah, I remember. I just rewatched Homecoming recently and was reminded because like the AI that Peter's suit uses identified him, and I remember like I remember that Easter egg that's who that was.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm going forward a little bit through, but we'll get back to the second end credit scene. But with that said, if you remember that scene, he was trying to figure out who was Spider-Man.
Right.
Now we know everybody knows who Spider-Man is, including him.
Yeah.
And with J. Jonah Jameson in here, if you remember the origin of Spider-Man, it was J. Jonah Jameson that financed Scorpion to get that suit to be like the anti-Spider-Man hero. They can easily write that in if they wanted to. I don't know if they will, but they can easily write that in.
But I think if I remember correctly too, at the end credits scene of Homecoming, was Michael Keaton's character. Yeah. I think like so I was totally like blanking on where that occurred, but yeah,
it was at the RAF actually.
Yep. I think there's certainly an opportunity for that to be another plot thread that they pull on if they do another one.
Which, by the way, I love who they chose to play the Scorpion. Who is and I hope he does reprise the role because if you ever watch Breaking Bad.
Now.
Yeah, he's one of the characters from Breaking Bad, and he was vicious. I mean, he plays a very vicious villain or a bad guy or just a guy you just don't want to mess with on that show. So I'm like, and he got the head shape for it and everything too.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome casting for that role right there. So, I mean, last thing with that before we go into other predictions, like the second end credit scene had Nick Fury and Maria Hill be revealed as the Skrulls Talos and his wife. I forgot his wife's name on Captain Marvel, but they were the whole entire time pretending to be them to look after Pete. Meanwhile, where is Nick Fury? This dude is in space.
Yeah.
And some like tropical type of holographic, environment, which, by the way, if I recall, you don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No.
So for those who do and for those who don't, on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the premise of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is that after the events of the Avengers, Phil Coulson actually died, but then for somehow, some way, he came back to life. And that later on, it was revealed that it was due to some type of alien, serum that he used, which was in ties with the Krees and such and stuff like that. So he wound up coming back to life, but in the midst of that, they called it Project Tahiti. And Project Tahiti while he was coming back to life and not supposed to know that he died, they never told him that he actually died. They wiped that from his memory and said that he was on vacation and he'd been to Tahiti the whole entire time. And every time somebody mentioned Tahiti, he kept saying it was like it's a magical place because they kind of imprinted this mindset in his head. So it's almost like hypnosis. It really, like every time you say Tahiti, that's how he responds. It's like he was deprogrammed, so to speak. And Nick Fury has been on the show. Like Samuel L. Jackson has been on the show.
Oh, really?
It was like it really legitimized the show when he was on there. That and the fact that they tied it with the Winter Soldier. That was when that show really picked up.
Gotcha.
But the end of that series showed Nick Fury making his known appearance in there and him knowing about the Tahiti project. So I'm wondering if that was a little bit of a wink Easter egg to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Tahiti thing, because Phil Coulson in the show actually recently last season died, legit, and his now love interest / partner in S.H.I.E.L.D. stayed with him till he died in the last days, and they actually went to Tahiti. So that scene that was shot looked a hell of a lot like that scene in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Okay.
And I love those type of tie-ins.
Yeah.
So we see him in here. The holograph goes away. We still don't know where the hell Maria Hill is. But he is, in fact, in a Skrull ship in space.
Yeah.
This opened the floodgates to a lot of people wondering where this is going. And in particular, again, going back to the IGN interview, I am not versed in the Skrulls to that nature. I know of the Skrulls. I'm well aware of the Super Skrull with the Fantastic Four.
Yep.
But somehow, some way, the interviewer in IGN believes that he knows where that ship is going and where it is familiar, and unfortunately to which John Watts was like, I cannot claim nor deny anything. I think this is going to lead into something bigger. And we were talking about this recently, but thinking like it was so open-ended and like where is this going and like stuff like they about to get real.
Yeah.
I think they're about to get really real here. We still got like Doctor Strange, we got Panther 2, we got then we got another Captain Marvel coming, I believe. Yeah,
I think that's like the slate of movies that have been confirmed are Doctor Strange to Black Panther to Captain Marvel to
now another Spider-Man is coming.
Yeah, I mean, I think that seems possible. I was doing my own research, and it looks like there's even Tom Holland said something to the effect of like another movie coming out next year for Spider-Man. But at the same time, there hasn't been anything contractually figured out between Marvel and Sony. So there's still like a big dollar sign question hovering over this. So they have not yet like announced that there's going to be a third Spider-Man movie. It seems likely, but like,
coming from John Watts himself?
I mean, but there's no deal in place for it.
Like, there's no deal in place, but he's talking like it's happening.
Well, I mean, I'll believe it when the contract is signed, because like right now it's over. Like there's an article, I was looking at an article talking about Sony trying to make Spider-Man movies with Tom Holland instead of them being Marvel movies.
God, that would be such a mistake. Yeah. Unless they use the same cast and crew.
I mean, but even if they did, it's still going to be. It would be a shame if they went that path.
Because Sony just doesn't get it when it comes to live action. Like they had it gold when Sam Raimi did it, and then they lost hope in him the minute that he did 3, which I think 3 was not good.
No, it was awful.
But they could have still did a 4 and come back from that.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, like they were running into the same issues that the Spider-Man series ran into, which is like Tobey Maguire at that point is like 30 years old.
But
so
wait, you got to remember though, and I realized that, but he, you know, in the comics he grows up and, you know, gets older too. Him and Kirsten Dunst. So I mean, they could have factored that in.
Yeah, but I think that's when like the comics kind of lost their luster, is when like it's kind of hard to relate to a 30-year-old Peter Parker and his wife who's a supermodel. Like I think it's that was like where the road would have become much harder for them to find a way to make that.
So you were against the MJ and Peter combo when they grew up?
No, I mean I think it's just I wasn't against it, but I think when they rebooted everything for the Ultimate Universe,
yeah,
that's when it reminded me like this is a more compelling story when it's Peter and this girl that he's in love with who's maybe, you know, not responding to it or kind of elusive. Like
right.
It's hard to feel sympathy for a guy whose wife is like a supermodel soap opera actress. Like he's not exactly an underdog at that point.
Well, he wasn't anymore. I mean, eventually you can't be an underdog for long.
Yeah,
I would hope not. I would hope not. You would be like Charlie Brown till like you're 30.
But I think that's why these movies work, is because they've returned Peter Parker to this very vulnerable, like nothing goes this kid's way. As soon as he gets like a break,
right,
a bigger issue's dropped in his lap. You know, no sooner does he go for this like big web swinging ride with MJ than his whole world is like demolished.
Right.
He can't, you know, his secret identity's revealed. Like he's blamed for all this stuff. Like when it comes down to it, like that's to me the best Peter Parker is the one that just keeps getting like mercilessly punched in the face, you know, like and I think that's where a lot of people relate to that. It's like, you know, this guy has awful luck. Like this is just like nothing goes this dude's way. But yeah, I think that like it'll be interesting to see how they develop this over time, because, you know, they've introduced the Daily Bugle. Like there's a chance now that, you know, Peter could work there because it now has been introduced as an idea. Like there's an angle for that they can explore now that's really interesting. But yeah, to get back to your previous question though, like the only movies that are confirmed for sure are Black Panther 2, Doctor Strange 2,
Guardians of the Galaxy,
Guardians of the Galaxy 3, yep. The Eternals, and then Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu movie, and Black Widow. Did we say Black Widow?
Yes. Well, we did.
Yeah, those are the ones that have like those are the confirmed, like, you know, they have release dates, they have like directors attached, they have like, you know, they have a production schedule in place.
Yeah. I have not. That is based on that new one that for the Asian superhero that I've never read that one before.
Nah, me neither.
That's a brand new one.
Yeah, the character exists, but it's new to me. Like he's been around. I remember the Shang-Chi entry in the official handbook for the Marvel Universe, like that old like.
The one where they tell the bios of everybody.
Yeah. I still
have those actually.
Yeah, I can still picture Shang-Chi from that. So he's been around for some time.
70s
Yeah, but I think credit to Marvel. They're trying to find like, you know, other characters to explore and another, you know, kind of concepts to reinvigorate.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think what you were getting at was like there's like this kind of cosmic element to the Nick Fury Skrulls storyline, and I don't know where that pays off. I don't know if that's like setting up this kind of bigger universe story so that the Eternals make sense sometime down the road,
possibly.
or
this is like we still got the Fantastic Four now on the helm of Disney and Marvel.
Yeah. So I don't know what like
and Silver Surfer.
I kind of feel like in a way I was intrigued by the whole Skrulls thing. But at the same time, I also felt like this is like needlessly confusing. Like, you know, like this was a pretty straightforward movie. For now, you know, Fury to have been replaced, you know, by Talos for a little while. Like for me, it felt like there wasn't enough clarity in the idea that they were kind of creating for it to feel like a really exciting Easter egg. It felt more like just vague and kind of, I don't know, like too mysterious for it to be really exciting.
Right. Well, I tell you this, I have no problem with this in a sense that we've all, even for Iron Man 3, to what most people say about that movie, they did answer a lot of questions in the later movies in reference to that movie to make it like to legitimize what they were doing. So I wouldn't put it past them to do the same here. And with their track record, you know, if you put, you know, Inhumans aside.
Yeah.
I got to have more confidence to say that we'll figure out what's going on and it'll all make sense.
Yeah, I agree. I'm sure it'll turn out great. I just think like when I think of like the end credit scenes that really like made my jaw drop, and they more explicitly set up like be excited about this next thing that's about to happen. Like when Fury turns up at the end and says, I want to talk to you about the Avengers Initiative, or like when Thanos turns up at the end of Avengers. It's like holy crap, they're going to introduce Thanos, or like holy crap, they're going to introduce the Avengers. Like there's like one step further they could have gone with this, where it would have been like whatever, they're going to introduce Adam Warlock, or they're going to introduce the Eternals, or whatever. Like
I agree.
There's like something there, and I'm sure it'll turn into something, but I just wish it was like holy crap, they're going to do like Secret Invasion next or whatever.
Which
so
a lot of people are really thinking that's where it's heading.
Maybe. I mean, that would be a fun storyline to look at. I mean, that was certainly, a real, and they've done a lot of work just in this movie to show you how easy it is to go back and tap into like characters from previous movies. All these, scientists that wind up being a part of Mysterio's crew. You could do something similar where it's like, you could go all the way back to like Iron Man 2 and say like, hey, this character from Iron Man 2 was actually a Skrull, or, this character from, Guardians of the first Guardians of the Galaxy.
Like they did with Hydra.
Yeah, exactly. Like they could do this really interesting, revisionist history of those things. That would be a fun story to do. But again, like I'm sure they'll do something interesting with it. It just felt like, just give me like one, grain more of information, and I would be like insanely excited. Now I'm just kind of curious.
Yeah. Speaking of Inhumans, I was really sad that didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, well, the only reason I was glad, I have mixed feelings about it, but the only reason I was glad it didn't work out was it annoyed me at the time that Marvel Comics was trying to replace
the X-Men.
The mutants and the X-Men.
It did not work at all.
There's no way.
You got too many years. You got too many great years on that deal, and in the depth of the storyline and premise of X-Men cannot be denied.
No, like X-Men is easily one of the more powerful like comic book concepts.
They were the hottest thing in the 90s.
Well, they're fundamentally important to comic books generally speaking.
In pop culture.
So like for them to feel like they could replace them with something as lame as the Inhumans,
which was never really ever really focused as much as they were, or pushed harder as they did with the X-Men. Never. Ever. Yeah. It was and that's the fault of their own, because they never really made them feel as special.
Yeah, and then they make this deal with Fox where they don't own the rights to them anymore, and the logic was so flawed. Like the logic was, we're going to replace the X-Men with the Inhumans because we don't want our comic books to drive interest towards these characters we don't own the rights for, and there's movies being made, and that's nonsense. The movies drive interest towards the comics.
Well, can I also mention too that their marketing scheme of it kind of failed too, in the sense that they put it in the IMAX theater, the first 2 hour, a 2-hour movie into the IMAX theater, and didn't give it the IMAX quality or the movie quality that you would expect. And I think that to people really was a big letdown. Yeah. And then furthermore, because honestly, I watched all the episodes, and most likely because one of the actors I've actually interviewed on this show, and that was Mike Moe, who also is playing Bruce Lee in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, cool.
So, and he looks just like him. It's insane.
He really does.
But he was playing. He played one of the Inhumans in there that was believed to be killed in like the first episode, and we didn't see him until like last episode. I was like, okay, they went there with that. It was Trident, in fact, and it went such a direction after a while. It was like, it was a lot of smoke and mirrors that didn't work. Yeah, with that deal. So that was sad. But I mean, they got that one. They got one flop on that one. They got one flop on Iron Fist. I still, with that said, it's 11 years of heavily strong, movies and series. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do next.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of hope that they can do interesting things now that they've, reintroduced the idea that the Spider-Man movies can be like bright and fun and still make sense in this big universe where things like Endgame can happen.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that the comics work too. Like you can gravitate towards certain characters, you can gravitate towards others. They might all exist in the same shared universe, but if you don't want the grim and grittiness of Batman, you can read The Flash. If you don't want the kind of whatever street level kind of crime fighting you get in like a Spider-Man, then you can go read, Thor. Like I think there's room to have all these different colors to paint with, and I think they've at least reassured me like they are going to make fun Marvel movies moving forward. They don't have to be like so emotional.
It's everything is what we are in this country, in this world, diverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny you said that too, because Jessica Jones' third season just came out, the final season, and the final Netflix show of the series showed. I absolutely loved it. I love the way that they went around to it, but a lot of people didn't, because you got people with the bang pow zoom mindset. And it was at that point I had to say, okay, you got to understand, you're not entitled to like every single thing that Marvel comes out with, because everything that they come out with may not be for your flavor. This was geared to another direction, another type of genre of the comic book universe, yet still connected to the universe. But it's a whole nother thing, and it worked for what it did in this case. But, you got a lot of people that expects that everything needs to be, this person can fly, this person can knock somebody out in the door, this person can do this. They have to have action-packed scenes. Sometimes this was a thriller. This was a more story developed, type of, show. Yeah. When it was actually action based. I mean, it had its action and everything, but at the same time, it's like you had to take it for what it was. And art doesn't have to be one thing. Art is a plethora of different, an amalgamation, if you will, of different, genres and feels and mediums and such. So once you broaden yourself to that moment, you'll actually probably appreciate things in a different perspective. Yep. So last question that I have for you, and that is, now we talked about this. I'm not going to give you, I'm not going to give you the opportunity to base it on whether it's the best Marvel film or not, or where does this land in the Marvel Cinematic Universe as far as the top 10, top 5, whatnot. I'll say, as far as Spider-Man movies is concerned, where does Far From Home place for you?
It's right up there. I mean, I think, when I look at these movies, the Homecoming and Far From Home are two of my favorites easily. This is my favorite version of these characters. Spider-Man 2, I think, is a real standout. With Dr. Octopus.
Still holds up too, by the way.
Yeah. I think it was really well done, and the performances are great. And then Into the Spider-Verse, I don't know. We talked about this before. Like, it's almost like one with an asterisk next to it, because it's probably my favorite. Yeah. But it's hard to compare it apples to apples with Homecoming or with Far From Home. I think it's
by the mediums of which it is, that being live action versus animated.
Well, yeah, and there's like a whole different like scope that's available to you when you do an animated movie. You can have an endless cast. You can have like things available to you, and I think frankly,
you can paint your canvas is damn near unlimited with possibilities of what you can do with it.
And I think it's hard for me to like compare a Miles Morales Spider-Man to a Peter Parker Spider-Man in a way too. Like I feel like it's easy to stack up three Peter Parkers against each other, Andrew Garfield, Tobey Maguire, and Tom Holland, and kind of, choose which one you think is the best. I think when you look at like, it was an animated movie, it's Miles Morales, like the protagonist is very different. It's almost in a category by itself. But if I had to rank them, I think Spider-Verse still comes in number one, and both of these recent Spider-Man movies are in my top 5 for sure.
Absolutely. I'm going to agree with you on that. Had this been if I base this on live action only, Far From Home is going to be my number 2, with Spider-Man 2 being my number 3. That makes, that makes Homecoming, I think Homecoming still to me is going to be my number 1. It's just by a hair though, because this was really good. This was a lot of fun. This was a great follow-up. But I think there were some great fundamentals to the first one that still holds up very strongly. With me. But with that said, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse is my number 1 because it was just such a great love letter to all of this. Yeah. And not only just this, the comic books, just the fanfare. I felt like it was just saying thank you for all the love that you gave, but also introducing us officially to Miles Morales and shutting all haters down that this dude is here to stay. And he also has an Oscar in his hand.
Yeah, absolutely.
So and that unfortunately that knocks out the original Spider-Man, because that was number 5 in my top 5 list. So which makes Captain America: Civil War the new number 5 for this.
Yeah, I think that's. I agree. I feel like I don't think of Civil War as a Spider-Man movie off the top of my head.
If you could just cut the 15 minutes and 62 seconds of that scene, it was at one point said to be the best Spider-Man movie ever until the other 2 came out.
No, I agree entirely. Yeah, I think that like the amount of ground they cover in as short an amount of time in that movie is really kind of amazing. Like they really do develop that character out of nothing, like incredibly rapidly and really successfully. I would agree. I think that's probably in my top 5 as well. Yeah,
so I'll look forward to seeing if, when the dotted lines is signed and we do get a third one, and it gotta be foolish for them not to do it, but we'll see. I got high hopes on this one, especially after reading that. God, Sony, if anything, I would blame Sony for this not happening, but it's got to happen. They just collect the money. Just take the damn money. Take the box office money, man. So, folks, that will do it for this edition of ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. Joe, thank you so very much again for being a part of the show. You're always a hell of a lot of fun to talk to in these very important matters.
Thank you, Dax. It's awesome to be a part of it. I appreciate you including me, man.
Not a problem. We did talk about it. We're actually going to have you back on, down the line, hopefully very soon, talking about some comic book discussions. And such, and because there's some things that based upon these movies, that subjects I want to definitely bring up, and I think it needs to be talked about, and this is the perfect platform to do it. So, man, what's up with you next? What's going on with you next? I mean, like, you're sports centric, so what's going on in your world?
No, I mean, I am probably watching what's happened in the NBA more actively than anything else over the past week. The whole complexion of the NBA has changed entirely. So I'm really excited about all the off-season stuff, and I watch it mercilessly, and I keep track of all of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the Sixers can do next year. That's if there was like a 1-1A of my interest, the Sixers are probably right up there with everything else.
Awesome. So yeah. All right, look forward to hearing more about that as well. Yep. So, man, thanks so much. Guys, stay tuned for this week. We are going to have Select Start, video game podcast, a lot of news coming in again, and we're counting down to Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3 coming in the Nintendo Switch. I cannot wait for that. Joe, if you haven't played that, none of your kids own a Nintendo Switch, do they?
No, we just have the Xbox.
Yeah, you better not tell them about that. But so it's a new Marvel game coming out, and it's much anticipated. It's coming out in 2 weeks, so this is going to be huge. I'm already hyping it up right now, and I'm looking forward to talking about it. So we got some news talking about this week, and God knows what else we're going to talk about next Sunday. So stay tuned for all that and much more. So, again, thanks again to Joe for being on the show. On behalf of myself and mighty Joe Rinaldi, all I got to say is learn to let go, live life, and love all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is ACMG Presents Talk Time Live. We are out of here. Take care and talk to you on Select Start.